Hi. Um, I recorded a video yesterday and I'm not entirely sure I'm happy with it, so I'm gonna record this video. Um, whilst after I recorded the video, I had a conversation with one of my friends, one of my close friends who has mental health issues, and I just felt like the conversation was really. It wasn't that I didn't know the things that I'd said in the conversation, but it was like, this is really enlightening when you start talking to people. I've taken some notes, but when you start talking to people and you're close to them, you say things and you're comfortable saying them, and they come out in a very sensible, logical way. And we were talking about things that typically, things that typically get said when you're going through a down episode, and in the way that people react. One of those things is you should be happy because there are people worse off than you. Now, let's just talk about this for a minute. Let's say you have no money and you're depressed over it, if you like, and say I'm depressed. Oh, I'm going through a down period because my mum beats me every day. Which that's not true. Can I just add? I have more money than you do, but my financial situation is fine, but your mum doesn't beat you every day, and but you struggle to buy food, buy clothes, and it has an effect on you. People are so much more likely to say that my situation is worse because I'm being beaten and all this, and that you should probably just you'll be all right. You get another job, all this stuff. Just you'll be fine. Like, it's just money. But the problem is, they're not the same situation. I'm luckier than you because I have money. And you're luckier than me because your mum doesn't beat you. I mean, that isn't really a logical way to look at it. It's not a logical comparison. You can't compare two people's issues and say you should be happy because they're suffering worse than you. Why should it make anyone feel better that somebody else is worse off than them? If that was true, if they're comparable, if they're compatible, it's not logical to say that. So don't say it. Don't tell people that you should feel better because there are starving kids in Africa. That's really silly. I shouldn't feel better because somebody else is suffering. Like that in itself isn't logical. Your illness, whatever illness you have, if you've got a mental illness, it's no worse or better than anybody else's mental illness. And I don't understand why anyone would want to demean or be so arrogant as to assume that somebody else is suffering worse, so just get over it. It's quite selfish, and it's very degrading, and it's not really true in any situation. Like, everyone can say that something is worse than somebody else. Everyone can say that something's better than somebody else's situation. The idea that someone should say, your anxiety is better than mine. Your anxiety is worse than mine. Your depression is better than mine. That's really disgusting. And it's shaming people for their situation. The people that do shame people are the same people that think it's acceptable to compare people's illnesses, and they're the same people that turn around and say, why would you do that? Why would you commit suicide? Why would and to be honest, I would have thought it was totally logical that being so judgmental is the reason that this stigma, the stigma of mental illness is getting on a huge scale, because people every 5 minutes turn around and go, that's not real, or you should be happy because of this, or you should be doing this. Just collectively accept that the people that label, people who label someone sad or weak for having an illness are the people that mean there are no funding for people with that illness, and the people that create a bigger problem. Just have that in the forefront of your mind, because you're actually making it worse and turning around and trying to blame somebody for an illness. Think about it as a physical illness. Think of you blame someone for having cancer. Have you ever done that? Would you ever do that? Do you feel that's acceptable? Don't blame somebody for something that actually you're then making worse. Like, don't do it. The people who encourage this stigma are the people who want to brush everything under the carpet, and it's only just because they don't understand. And if they bother to educate themselves and they bother to actually listen, they would realize that you're putting a minority group in a very dangerous situation. Just by being so judgmental, just keep your critical crap to yourself. And really, when you think about it, with this happy thing that I keep banging on about, because I'm so sick of being labelled sad and being compared to happy, how much more crazy is it to be happy all the time than it is to be sad all the time? Have you ever considered that? If people were happy all the time, they would be demonic. That would be scary. People don't just float through one emotion their entire life. Nobody does that. And if they do that, there is probably something wrong with them. It's no more crazy to be happy all the time than it is to be sad all the time, if there was such a thing as being sad or happy all the time. And when you really think about it, why would you ever want to be happy all the time? Because feeling what I felt, all the things that I felt that I collectively have been diagnosed now with having depression. So those feelings and the things that have happened as a collective group have been labelled depression, which is an annoying label because depression kind of has this sad connotation. But those emotions, they've taught me so much more than being happy all the time would. They've taught me so much more than being sad all the time would. And I'm not ashamed of having an illness, so don't try to shame me over it. And you know what? We're so quick to sort of say, oh, he's angry, or oh, she's this, or whatever. If people didn't feel anger, for example, half of the nation wouldn't speak out about anything. If people didn't feel things, there would be no change in the world. Because some people actually realise, if there's a problem, it needs dealing with. It doesn't need blanketing over. If someone's angry about something because it's dehumanising them, they're not going to cover it up by saying, well, I'll be happy because the sun's out. They're going to take an action over it to sort of, try to be accepted. There's so many things that happen. If people weren't angry over them, they would never change. There's so many big historical events that you could say, if someone hadn't got angry over that, or if someone hadn't stood up and stood out and said, this is not right, you're treating me like shit, it would never change. So don't tell people, that they should sit there and be happy over, find something to be happy over, because it's not that bad. Don't, especially if you don't really know what's going on. I totally understand why anyone would want to be happy. I do like being happy when I'm happy, but it's far better to acknowledge somebody else's feelings and thoughts than it is to say that they shouldn't be feeling it, like they're inhuman and wrong for having emotions. So really what I'm trying to say is it's okay to aim to be happy or want to achieve happiness, but it's not okay to seek happiness by the mere ignorance. I have written this down. It's not okay to seek happiness by the mere ignorance of the injustices done to other people, or to the detriment of other people's rights, well-being, values and humanity. I will write that in the description. I kind of came up with that, and I want everyone to remember that before you judge yourself for how you feel, and before you let anybody put you down about your personal issues.